Hi everyone, it's Tracey here from Art Fibre Stitch. We've been working on this and I've just about finished, I think. So this will be the last part. This landscape made with fabric and with thread. Now you can see here that we started off with a vague kind of coloured painting of a linen fabric. The linen fabric I love because I can pull it and pry it apart and thread bits of wool through it or fabric underneath it to poke through to make it interesting splashes of colour. So I used this yarn which I couched down to make sort of water ripples, and then I added rocks and yarns and threads that were all tangled, and I couched them down too, just to look like the water swirling around the rocks. As you can see, I think that's really quite effective. Next, I decide to work on that middle ground. I needed some sort of colour change, so I put some orangey brown sheer fabrics on top. You can see I've used sheer fabrics here too. But that brings us up to date with where we are now. Forgive my hands, I've been pruning in the garden and I'm quite scratched up. So let's jump in. I'm just looking here at some sheer fabrics that I put down last time. I like using them, I like layering them, I like to cut little bits out of them so that I can see the sky through them or the fabric underneath. So using snips, I'm just creating a few more little holes there. I'll probably keep adding to it, but I like that. I like those shadowy trees in the background. Here I've got a pinkish area and I actually put some bright glittery pink fabric there underneath. But I'm just teasing these bits of linen apart to see what I can make of it and how I can try and turn this into something. And on this side, I've got an expanse of green. Well, I'm thinking I'll cut some bits out and see what colour fabric is underneath. I did use a multi-coloured fabric, very bright underneath that linen, so that I could have surprise little bits of areas show through with the different colours. So here I'm thinking, oh, well, it's a variation to the green, or as I move around there's an orangey colour and even a brown. So we can call that rocks if we want, if we exposed more, pulled that apart. I like working like this and making it up as I go. And you can see how useful those little snips are. There's a rock right there. So as you can see, what I did end up seeing in this fabric was a river. And we've got it, the foreground is all the way across the picture. And that is the brightest area. That is the area that is larger, and it creates this apex. And you can see at the top of the river, it's much smaller. It's going towards a point almost. And that's perspective. I've put a lot of that orangey brown sheer fabric there. And here I've put a piece down, an extra one, because I want another rock. I like that rocky area to define the bank. You can see here that I have used a bit of seed stitch to hold all that down. And I'm just checking out some other colours I might like to use there. You know, light and dark, just to make it more realistic. So you can see here I've got a stranded cotton assortment of different greens and browns and things. Yeah, and I'm going to bring that into the centre. I might even put another little tree right in the centre. Here I'm looking at something I could have used, but I didn't end up. But I'm just wanted to show you because it is good. The same wool that I used in the foreground, in the river, I could use this white version and I could easily spread that apart and make clouds. So just look at the things that you might have that could be used in a different way to what you expected, and what can you use it as? How can it help you? But that would be good. I could even probably needle felt that on. I didn't try, but you know, these things are never finished. I keep thinking of extra little ideas I can try. But let's leave that for now. I'm going to get on with the rest of it. Now I need to do quite a bit of work in this mid area. I've got that pinky patch on the right. Yeah, I might bring some even more pink into it if I'm brave. But I'm thinking I'll start with a variegated thread that's got greens and browns in it. You can see it here. And it's a pearl cotton. And I'm just going to thread my needle. And let's see what we can do with that. Oh, you just had a glimpse of that fabulous fabric that I used underneath. And when I say multicolored, I mean multicolored. Now look at this area here. A lot of that needs to be held down. I'm going to use that variegated thread and I'm going to turn it into grasses. And to do that, I'll just use long stitch, and there'll be some longer than others, and sometimes they'll cross over, sometimes they'll head in different directions. But it's going to start to hold down that area and to blend it together a little bit and turn it into something. I'm hoping it'll end up looking like a patch of, you know, grasses with flowers and things that are in it, or you know, the seed heads on grasses perhaps. I'm not going to be too precise about anything. It's really an interpretation or a suggestion, you know, of what I see in this fabric. It's a really wonderful thing to do because it really stretches your imagination. But you can see here how that's coming along. Working across all those colours and continuing with that variegated thread really does help to not just hold it down, but to blend it. And I can choose here if I want to change the way things look. I can put more holes in my linen. I can spread that colour further apart or just make it up. You can see how that's worked here, a little bit closer. But I also used a bit on the other side. See there? That's little grasses. It helps to hold things down. It helps to create that look that we're after. Maybe they're, you know, weeds, or maybe they're bulrushes or whatever. I don't mind. But I'm really wanting to make it obvious that the river is there, disappearing into the background, getting wider at the foreground, and this is the bank, so I have to make it different to the river somehow. And whilst I'm over this side, don't forget that I cut little bits out of that green, so I'm going to also try when I stitch to hold different bits of it apart so that we get those glimpses of rocks or whatever are in the background. The colours in this when we started were very, very muted. Not really the right colour that I wanted, but I have tried to persevere and add little overlays of colour, or just using the stitches or that yarn to blend those colours into the brighter colours, which will be brightening up that dull fabric to begin with. And it will also, allowing some of that dull colour to show through, calms down some of those super bright colours I've put in. Once I've done that first lot of variegated thread, I can come back with something else. I'm going to go with a brown kind of colour. I'm going to try and expose some of that pink as I do it. And I'm also here on the edge. I'm thinking what I want is to have more shadow. And so what I'm going to do is just do a running stitch at various lengths and only just just in from the edge of the bank of our river. I think that will help shade it in a bit. Sometimes I'll do lines that'll go out further. Sometimes I'll just do lines that are close together. Sometimes they're further apart. But I'm hoping it will look like shaded bits in ripples on the water. I do end up using a few different colours here because I like that it starts to bring it all together. I find that everything I do teaches me something. And although I haven't done something like this, quite like this before, I've certainly developed a few new techniques along the way. And it's a great thing to do, to put it all together. And you do keep improving. You do keep finding more little things to try. And I've really enjoyed putting all of these things together and coming up with this picture. I figured that I could go on forever adding little bits and pieces. And that's where I need to put that seed stitch in. That works beautifully to hold it down. So a little bit more shading, I think. You can see halfway down the river there how it started to darken on the edge of the bank. But we'll look at some photos next to sort of see where we ended up and how. But a closer look first to see what I've been talking about. Have a look here. And you see how I've put those different grassy bits in. It really did add to it. Sometimes you got to step back from a picture to really be able to see it. I'm showing you close up now so that you can see some of the things in detail. But really, when you step back, it does look like a picture, doesn't it? But here with this pink, I think I need to do something else with that. I do end up getting that pink that I was showing you before, the hot pink. And I do a few French knots there to look like the seed heads or flowers. And that blue, that's one of the colours I've brought in just there, you know, to lighten that up, to give it a tinge more blue because it is very green. And I think every time we add something, it really is helping. Here's a peek at those French knots that I added. I think that works. It's enough to allow our imagination to fill in the rest of the picture. Look there, you can see I've now put in a tree on the horizon in the middle of our river. And loads more little dotted lines to colour up that river a bit. Like I say, there's plenty I could do, but I think this has been a success overall. I hope you've enjoyed watching and that you'll try it yourself. So I hope you have liked it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also donate should you want to. I think I'll move on in the next video and try something completely different. I don't know what I'll play with next, but I welcome you to join me and see what it is that I do. Thank you very much. Bye for now.